So today I'm going to give you a quick tour of my workshop, and as you can see, it's just a wooden workshop. And it's fairly modest, not a lot of room. I've got it's very compact, so I'll give you a general overview. So this is the major bench where I work on. I've got a granite table there, which is it's just an old chopping board basically, but it's within about 5 thou across corner to corner, which is about 600 millimeters. So generally what I'm generally working on is a couple of inches, so it's not normally a problem. So you know, my marking out gauge, blocks, etc., Stevenson's blocks that I use, and all the usual kind of storage space. But this is where I generally work. So there you can see all my sort of taps that I use, taps and drill sizes, files, marking out equipment, blah blah blah. This is an engine I'm currently working on. It's a beam engine that I'm working on. Still a lot to be sorted out there, but I'm sure that will all come in good time. Moving over to this side, this is my door Westbury Mark 1 milling machine. Beautiful machine. I've had to adapt the surface table. I've put this aluminium 20mm aluminium slab on there, simply because all the vices I ever bought, none of them lined up with any of the slots. So with this aluminium slab I can drill it and tap it and do whatever I want with it, and that works out well. There's a few of my tools. If I just switch that on, I've got a little current monitor there, and I can turn, I've got a light there which I've adapted. That's a IKEA flexible light unit, so I can just use that wherever I want it. And also down here there is a forwards and backwards speed and a speed controller, which will eventually, I still haven't wired it up yet, control a X-axis, basically a X-axis drive, and so that's something I'm working on. So that's my door Westbury mill. Over here, well, the usual stuff. I also work in wood, so I tend to have a lot of sort of woodworking clamps, woodworking tools, etc., etc. Down here I've got a few boxes that I've built all these sort of cupboards and that, so you know where my reamers are with the right size drills, carbide tools, slitting saws, etc. Basically, you know, cupboards for bits and bobs. So you know, all the clamps, etc. you need, files, knockout tools, more measuring tools, end mills, etc., etc. Tool post drills. That's obviously for the lathe. Mandrel, which is obviously designed to work with the indexing bar there. I've got the old milling pallet, which I used to use on my lathe. Probably never use that again. Oh yes, ball turning attachment, and of course a milling device. But yeah, as you can see, keep all my sort of you know, made all these sort of racks for my equipment. So all my spanners, magnetic racks are really useful. Die turning, die holders, centers, etc., etc., etc. And then down there all my sort of regular turning tools, my spanners, and of course the old ML7 lathe. Currently got the 4-jaw 100mm chuck in place, which is my favourite chuck. and some, you know, all the rest of the usual stuff, my micrometers, etc. Nice flexible light there, so I can move that over where I'm working. All my sort of ready reckoners, so I can kind of calculate what I'm doing. Just to draw for scrap there over there. And down here I've got all my my change gears in a box. That's another project which I'll go into another time. 6-jaw chuck faceplates, 4-jaw chuck, or 3-jaw self-centering, 6-inch 4-jaw there, and then of course some of my stock, it's just like random copper tubes, brass tubes, aluminium tubes, steel stock, aluminium stock, round stock, brass stock, whatever comes to mind really. I keep all these in kind of tubes, which I just sort of put into the rack there. All the usual sort of stuff that you need. You know, my sort of verniers, more steel stock, threaded stock, etc. And then sort of oh yeah, I've got my cupboard here, where I keep all my sort of well, precious stuff, I suppose, really, measuring equipment, etc, etc. I've got all sorts of stuff in here really I ought to get rid of, stuff I don't need anymore. That's another project I haven't quite finished building, but yeah, keep all that in there. And then coming around here, some of my wood chisels, or my wood gouges, some of my other woodworking stuff. Then my metalworking files, T-handle hexagon sets, screwdrivers, drills, countersinks, spanners, whatever, wood chisels. My 6-inch grinder, which I can remove via, you know, it just sits into there on a couple of wooden dowels. And also down here I've got my 4-inch grinder and all my other stuff. Compressor there, which has got an extra tank down there to give me a bit of extra air when I need it for my engines. I've got a drawer here full of God knows what, all my collets and that, and all my failed pieces of failed bits of engines, etc, etc. More stock down there, tubes, God knows what else. I dare to think, really, to be honest. And then moving over here, I've got my rack of glasses, which I'm constantly changing, so I can see what I'm doing. Taps and dies, different taps and dies, more taps and dies, metric, imperial, God knows what, woodworking bits. And then of course onto my drill press, Sealy drill press, with one of these, which has really been really useful, especially when you don't want to, you know, hold some stock. You can set that to clamp it and you ain't got to worry about losing your fingers. One of my cameras that I use, yeah, as you can see, it's attached by extra strong magnets, and I've got points all around the workshop with metallic sort of blocks, excuse me, where I can affix my cameras as needed. So yeah, that's pretty useful, and that's on one of those sort of changeable arms. Drill, size gauges, and then onto my sort of rack of well, machine screws and various other things, connectors, electronics, blah 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 blah. And then down to my bandsaw, which is a trusty workhorse. You can't have a workshop without a bandsaw. And of course some more stock there, metal stock, steel, aluminium and brass. And there's also some more of that stored underneath there as well. And they have those boxes as well, which where I keep all my other offcuts as well. Wood bandsaw, which I use quite a bit, to be honest. The rest of this is just kind of chaos. I haven't sorted that out yet. So, well, I'll come back to that another time. But as you can see, got our radio up there. Normally has radio 6 on. blaring out, but of course I'm doing a video tonight, so I'm not going to have my radio on. So there you go. That is my workshop where I build my little model engines and everything else that I do, and it's my sort of sanctuary. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye.